Welcome to Cherry Hill Tuition, where incredible results are achieved. In this mathematics tutorial, I will cover some of the excellent processes used by Cherry Hill to achieve the highest grades. Let's get started. Before we get started on the questions, let's go over some background theory. In right-angle triangles, all three angles that is 90 degrees. So let's name this angle x, this angle y. This means x plus y plus 90 degrees should add up to 180. So this is an important rule that you need to remember. Now, when working with right-angled triangles, it's useful to label them. So let's go over the labeling. The longest side is always the side that is opposite to the right angle. So this side here. Okay? And this is the side that we call hypotenuse. Okay? The base side is the adjacent. And this side is the opposite. Bear in mind, the adjacent and opposite can also be the other way around. It depends on the question. So let's say that the question is asking us to work out theta here. In this case, this would be the opposite because it's opposite theta, and this would be the adjacent because it's the base. Let's say if it was the other way around, so if this was theta, then we would need to swap the adjacent and the opposite. This would be the opposite because it's opposite theta, and this would be the adjacent because it's the base. Okay? So hypotenuse is always the longest side opposite the right angle. The opposite side is always opposite theta, and the adjacent is always the side where the right angle and theta both lie. So it's very important to remember these rules. Let's say that we had a triangle, a right angle triangle, and this side was 3 centimeters, this side was 4 centimeters, and we need to work out x, so the length of the hypotenuse. There is a rule to work this out, and it's called the Pythagoras theorem. The Pythagoras theorem says that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. This would be a, this would be b, and c is always the hypotenuse, the longest side. So to work out this question, what we would do is a squared, which is 3 squared, plus 4 squared, which is b squared, is equal to c squared. And then we simply just simplify in order to get c squared. So 3 squared is 9, plus 4 squared, which is 16, is equal to c squared. This leaves us with 25 is c squared, so c is plus or minus 5. And because it's a length, it has to be the positive value, as the length cannot be negative, so c is 5. Okay? So in order to use Pythagoras theorem, we need at least 2 sides and then we can work out the third side. It does not matter which sides you have, we just need two sides. So let's go over some questions that involve the Pythagoras theorem so we can use this in concept more. Question 2. So you will notice that the question numbers are not consecutive and do not start from 1. This is simply because the questions refer to Cherry Hill specific material, but do not worry if you do not have access to this, as I will still cover the concepts in full. So we have a right angle triangle and we've been given two sides and we need to work out the missing side. So let's label this triangle first. The hypotenuse is always the longest side that's opposite to the right angle. The opposite side is always the side that's opposite theta, and the adjacent is always the base side. Because we've been given two sides and we need to work out the missing side, we need to use Pythagoras theorem. Pythagoras theorem states that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So this is c, this is a, and this is b. Now all we need to do is substitute our values of a, b, and c in order to solve for our missing side. So a is x, so x squared plus b squared, b is 8, is equal to c squared, and c is 9. Okay, and now we just need to simplify and solve for x. So x squared plus 8 squared, which is 64, 9 squared is 81, and now we can minus 64 on both sides, leaving us with x squared plus 64 minus 64 is equal to 81 minus 64. The 64s cancel out, leaving us with x squared is equal to 81 minus 64, which we can work out here. This gives us 17. Square root of both sides will leave us with plus and minus the square root of 17. Because we are working out the length of a side, we have to take the positive value because the length cannot be negative. So x is equal to the square root of 17. Okay, so not too difficult. I would advise you to pause this video now and try this question again on your own to see if your answer matches my answer. Question 5, we have another right angle triangle and we need to work out x. So let's start by labeling this triangle. So the hypotenuse is always the side that's opposite the right angle and it's always the longest side. The adjacent is the side that's the base and the opposite is the side that's opposite theta. We need to work out x and we have two sides already. This means we need to use the Pythagoras theorem. The Pythagoras theorem states that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So c is always the hypotenuse, and let's name this a and this b. So x squared, because x is a, plus b squared and b is 5, is equal to c squared, which is 10 squared. And now we just need to simplify and solve for x. So 5 squared is 25, 10 squared is 100. We now can take 25 away from both sides, leaving us with x squared plus 25 minus 25 is equal to 100 minus 25. On the left-hand side, the 25s cancel out, leaving us with x squared. And on the right-hand side, we have 100 minus 25, which is 75. Okay, now we can square root both sides, leaving us with plus and minus the square root of 75. And because it's a length, we always take the positive value, so x is the square root of 75. Okay, so hopefully that did make sense and it is getting a little bit easier. Pause this video and try the question again on your own without looking at my working out to check if you get the right answer. Question 9, we have another right angle triangle. So let's label the sides. So this is the right angle. This is theta. So the hypotenuse is the side that's the longest and opposite the right angle. The opposite is that side that's opposite the theta, and this is the adjacent. Because we have two sides, we need to use the Pythagoras theorem, which states a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. This is C, so let's use a different color for that. This is C, this is A, and this is B. Okay? Now we can substitute our values in to find x. So we have a squared, and a is 1, so we have 1 squared plus b squared. B is x, so we have x squared is equal to c squared, which is 11 squared. Okay, so 1 squared is 1 plus x squared is equal to 11 squared, which is 121. And now we just need to rearrange and solve for x. So we can take 1 away from both sides, leaving us with 1 plus x squared minus 1 is equal to 121 minus 1. The 1's cancel out on the left-hand side, leaving us with x squared is equal to 120. And we can square root both sides, leaving us with x is equal to plus and minus the square root of 120. And remember, because it's a length, we have to take the positive value. So x is equal to the square root of 120. Okay? Pause this video and try this question again on your own to make sure that you get the same answer. Question 11, we have another right angle triangle. So let's start by labeling this. So this is the hypotenuse, the opposite, and the adjacent. And because we have two sides given to us, we need to use the Pythagoras theorem to work out the third side. And the Pythagoras theorem states that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So this is C, this is A, and this is B. And now we can substitute our values in to work out our missing side. So A is x, so we have x squared plus b squared, b is 10, is equal to c squared, which is 20 squared. And now we just need to simplify and solve for x. So x squared plus 10 squared, which is 100, is equal to 20 squared, which is 400. We can take 100 away from both sides, leaving us with x squared plus 100 minus 100 is equal to 400 minus 100. The 100s cancel out, leaving us with x squared. 400 minus 100 is 300. Square root of both sides leaves us with plus and minus the square root of 300. Because it's the length that we're working out, it's the positive value that we need to take, and this is your answer. Okay? Thank you for tuning in. Remember, practice makes perfect. Never give up. I will see you in the next tutorial.